Hi, I'm Sean Burton. I'm one of the founders of the AI conference, and today I'm going to be speaking with Nazneen Rajani of Hugging Face. Nazneen is working on a new LLM that Hugging Face is designing and building themselves that's going to be open sourced. It's a super interesting project, and we're excited to have Nazneen speak at the AI conference in September in San Francisco. Here's my conversation with Nazneen.
Yes, so my name is Nazneen Rajani. I'm a research lead at Hugging Face. Currently at Hugging Face, we are building the H4, which is helpful, honest, harmless, and huggy language model. And our hope is to open source it. We are hoping to get a powerful chatbot out, which would be fine-tuned on an existing open source model, and we are working with various data vendors to collect the fine-tuning data as well as human preferences. And the main thing we want to do is share the knowledge around what goes in getting from GPT-3 to something like ChatGPT. Hopefully, fingers crossed, if you're able to get to that level. So that's kind of what the goal right now is with the team, and that's what we are working on.
Awesome. How long have you been working on the I guess H4 is what you're calling it, right?
Yes, so we've been working on it since earlier this year. So I guess after ChatGPT, the whole world almost changed, and everyone's been focusing on trying to see, how they can uncover the secret ingredients or recipes for building such a powerful language model. And so even at Hugging Face, we've been doing that. And so in January, we had okay, let's put together a team to see if we can kind of just replicate that in the open and share the knowledge around it. And so essentially that's what we're focusing on, but obviously at a much smaller scale. We don't have the resources and the teams that are size of OpenAI or any other competitors, but we just mainly are really interested in knowing what are the ingredients, what are the recipes, and is it possible to uncover them and share them with the public and democratize the process of just building something as powerful as ChatGPT?
Super cool. I think Hugging Face. We like to feature Hugging Face because I mean, it's just sort of the crowd favorite, right? You're in open source. What do you think about uh, sort of people saying that open source or open sourcing models like this, or open sourcing highly capable models are is dangerous?
Yeah, so I wouldn't, I guess it just depends. It's not black and white. There is a lot of nuances to it. The models are definitely powerful. They can be misused. The thing is that I feel there are obviously more imminent harms that, we could be focusing on to see, basically do a lot more evaluations and, red teaming and stuff. But yeah, so I mean, I would say that, yeah, I don't deny that, they cannot be misused, but I also feel this technology, this powerful technology being in the hands of a few people is also problematic, essentially. And
Mm.
so there's just there's just a lot of nuances, and it's not I'm not generally saying that, oh, we should open source every single model.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's a much more nuanced decision.
yeah. No, I mean, I think I'm with you. Just by the way, I think that exactly what you said, right? It's scarier to me to have a very powerful tool in the hands of very few people than it is just everyone. Um, also, so did you join Hugging Face to work on this, or were you there and sort of said, let's do this?
Yeah, so I was at Hugging Face a year before this whole thing happened. So yeah, initially I was focusing on mostly related to evaluations and trying to see how we can uncover systematic problems in models. And so I had a paper last year at EMLP just trying to see that, if given, and we also have an interactive space on it, is that can we discover or uncover these systematic labeling issues with large language models. And it was very interesting. You could use GPT-3 and it would say that, hey, these are possible problematic errors that are there that this classifier made, and then you can go ahead and a human could intervene and like verify actually if it was correct or not. But it was interesting, like it could say that your sentiment classifier is not able to classify gym reviews very well, for example, right? And I thought that was a very powerful tool just to be able to like find these systematic problems and errors in your model by using a bigger language model such as GPT-3 at that time last year, to just label these problems. And so, yeah, that was kind of the work that I was focusing on before the whole H4.
Yeah, interesting. And is this a shift for Hugging Face? I mean, when I think of Hugging Face, and I've used it quite a bit to as just sort of a browser, right? I've used it as I use GitHub, which is I don't contribute a lot. I get to the benefit is this, but it's a repository for other people's models, right? Sort of the GitHub of models. Is this sort of a shift where Hugging Face is going to go more into building their own open source content?
So I would say I think we always had a little bit of this going on. So the Bloom model was, although it was part of this big science project, Hugging Face was one of the main players and coordinating the whole effort. We also have the Star Coder or Star Chat, which is part of this big code, which again is like in collaboration with like much smaller than big science, but a smaller group of individuals from all across the world contributing. So I would say there was like a little bit of effort, but now, yeah, Hugging Face is like putting a lot more bet on just training their own language models, fine tuning them, and making them available. This is on top of like the existing product and the business, which is just providing this whole ecosystem and pipeline for machine learning, like starting from like data sets to training to just getting your models evaluated, and then finally like putting them up as an interactive space or in a UI using Gradio.
Super cool. Um, I was going to ask you what do you think the hardest thing is about building a model with this level of capability? Like, I don't know if it's GPT-3 or 3.5, or what's the hardest part about it?
So I would say there are quite a few difficulties. Obviously, one of them is good quality data. So I think like just pre-training on a lot of data could get you to like something like GPT-3, and that was also like depending on like if you got the optimal amount of data, number of tokens, and the number of parameters. And then after that, just going from, if you have actually like, interacted with GPT-3 versus something like ChatGPT, it's just day and night. And so the reason for that, I feel, is mainly because of very high quality data. And so just getting that and like, sort of like cracking the code of like how much data and how much data is needed in each step of like fine tuning, and also like what kind of like sort of due diligence you need to do. So like, for example, we have been training models on like collecting very high quality human data, but some of it we soon figure out, okay, it's not very good at reasoning or math. Even like the existing GPT-4 model is not very good, but then it's much better than what we have right now. And even, for example, for coding. So obviously, like we could like find like we could pre-train it further and like add more coding data and all these examples. But then you also need to know what kind, like what are the capabilities that you are aiming for, and what is the right set of of data set you need for getting to that level. And I think that is something that is like still not cracked yet.
Interesting. And what do you think about how close is like Llama 2 or the Facebook Meta Fair stuff?
So I would say the Llama 2 chat model, which is the fine-tuned Llama 2, I think it's quite decent. It's obviously, again, not at the level of ChatGPT or GPT-4. It's not very good at coding at all. And similarly, I think reasoning and math. I also saw some paper which basically said that it always used to like tend to like refuse to respond. So it was trying to be more harmless than helpful. So it
Mm.
seems like they did a very good job at collecting data and aligning the model, but it seems to be too aligned to be harmless, and so it will always like refuse to answer a question even when it could have, tried to be more helpful. So there's like, this tension between like helpfulness and harmlessness, and what is the right set of mix again to like, how do you align your model to do that? Like you could create a model to be very helpful and just train your model to be very helpful, and then maybe do something on top of it, like such as RLAIF or like some sort of like adversarial training to figure out if to make it harmless. Or you could just train a model from scratch to be harmless as well as helpful. So there are like a lot of these different things that go on. And so I would say that even the Llama 2 chat is not at that level yet.
Do you think we'll see, if, for example, you release H4, do you think we'll see sort of stable diffusion style elevation of open source contributors and acceleration of development?
Yeah, definitely. I think even with Llama 2, we saw that even with the first Llama model that came out earlier in the year, that was definitely a pivotal moment for open source. We saw a lot more instruction tuned models like the Alpaca, Vicuna, Kwana, all these come out thanks to Llama being open source. And then even with Llama 2, we saw a lot more happening, and we're like still seeing a lot more growth in like open source contributions. A lot of people just fine tuning it on a lot of different domains. And like I think I saw like a chatty healthcare diagnosis thing yesterday, use on fine tune on Llama to chat on Llama 2 maybe even. And so yeah, so I would say like definitely it does give like it's almost like a pivotal moment, like these things when they get open source, the research artifacts, either a model or training data like Red Pajama, those are like definitely pivotal moments which are sort of like kind of just accelerate the progress in open source.
Super cool. Well, we're super excited about it. Can you, for the recording, can you say again what H4 stands for?
Yes, it's helpful, harmless, honest, and huggy.
That's
That's
awesome.
hugging.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Cute,
Love
yeah.
it. And you're one last time you're going to be teaching some classes. Could you talk a little bit about you mentioned them early in the call, but I didn't have it recorded. Do you want to talk about what you've got coming up?
Yes, so I'll be teaching a class on interpreting ML models in end of August. And then again, I'll be teaching a class on reinforcement learning with human feedback, essentially like the knowledge we learned from building the H4. And, obviously like, kind of more catered to like the general audience this fall. So like most likely sometime in like September or October timeframe with Core Eyes.
Great, and we'll put the link in there for that. Well, we're
Awesome.
excited to have you at the AI conference, and we're super excited to hear you talk. And I know lots of people are very excited as well because we're seeing all the traffic coming in. So thank you for participating.
Yeah, thank you for having me and inviting me.